but I'm against the reasons behind
confusing ego with strength. Why specifically those two things?
It gives you another level of experience because that's the power of imagination.
What's this ideology that you have in mind?
Why? Because you were speechless at that point.
Let it start with reflection and end with action.
Is to go against some parts of human
You need
nature.
to stick with community at the end of the day.
They're punching the walls. They're talking to themselves. That's a perfect way to actually say it.
Mind and muscle. It's something that we both value. Like, why do we value mind and muscle, and why specifically those two things, these two M's? I've come to realize, if I asked you what's wrong with your life, you'd probably say stress. It's always the thing that it's repeated with almost everyone. But if I asked you how you sleep, how you eat, how you train, how you pray, then the answer is going to be more apparent. So my question to you is, do you think most people are mentally exhausted or physically undisciplined?
Let's start by talking about how mental exhaustion really starts.
Okay.
So let me start with this example. Imagine every single day you go through a routine, and within the routine that you're going through, what happens is someone there throws a word that shakes you from the inside. Okay,
so something negative.
Yeah,
Okay.
You're a positive person. You walk through life with all this great positive attitude and everything. And then you're like, sure, no problem. You shake it off. Okay? Because you have a positive mindset. You do everything right. And then you have this one space, one part of your life that makes everything negative go away. And you're comfortable in that spot. What if that comfortable point also turned negative on you for any other reason? And let's say this started since you were a child. Okay? Now, let's not say it happens right now because we're going to go to extreme comparisons, but let's just start this simple. Once your comfort zone is poked, then you're going to realize that every other physical aspect crushes down. So, it's true, they always say it starts from the mind, and then your body responds to how your mind thinks. But if you analyze all this, basically the scene that I just explained, it was both. There was a comfort zone, that was something mental and emotional, and then there's the physical aspect, just outside, things attacked you, people, whatever. But even when they attacked you, it wasn't all physical. It was also emotional, right? It was mental, it was verbal. So we can't really say it's 100% this or 100% that. But if you want to know what really affects on the higher level, I'd say it's the emotional aspect of it. If you understand what I mean. Because when we talk about emotions, just to give a simple explanation, thoughts always move emotions. But do you know what also acts faster than that? When emotions move thoughts. When these two are playing around and they're unstable, first thing you'll realize as an adult, if you were an athletic person and your mind was disrupted, your emotions were disrupted, you can't work out normally. You feel this heaviness inside of you. And the more you give in to that heaviness and you, let's say, and you don't work out the way you used to do, you don't eat the way you used to do, you don't sleep the way you used to do, you spiral down.
Okay.
And it's just...
I mean, you need to keep in mind that there are many different types of attacks that can reach you as a person. That's why there are panic attacks, there are heart attacks, there is physical trauma that you need to keep in mind. All of these different things, when you take them into accord, right, and actually see which is affecting you most, you can avoid these different types of attacks. So one of the things that I wanted to bring up, because again, we're trying to focus on how mental health and physical health are intertwined in this conversation. And You take the simplest thing like panic attack. Panic attacks are considered mini heart attacks for some doctors. They label them unofficially as mini heart attacks because of the amount of stress that a person goes through. And likewise, overthinking causes cortisol spikes. And because of that, sleep and mood connection just gets disrupted alongside it. نرجع لمثالك, the thing that you mentioned. When you are mentally disrupted and you try to go work out and you try to do something that's productive physically, what happens to you? It's not as efficient.
Even when you try to push it, you feel it on a physical level.
Definitely. And I wanted to ask you, have you ever felt mentally low? And if so, has it affected your gym performance? Because, I mean, sorry, I know I just asked this question, but someone can physically be fit but mentally be weak. And I've seen that a lot. Especially with people that take steroids, for example. بس هاي قصة ثانية. Okay. برجع مرة ثانية على البارت نسوي لك هات. So my question to you, can someone be physically fit but mentally weak?
Definitely. I see it all the time. Because see, there's this ideology, and I'm not against it, but I'm against the reasons behind it, the intention towards it.
What's this ideology that you have in mind?
The ideology is that if you're facing anything tough in your life, go and let it out in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great ideology, but you have to approach.
How most people start. That's how I started.
Okay, that's not bad. This is what I do. When life attacks me, the first thing I do is I let it out there. But in what kind of, let's say, with what kind of mentality are you approaching it? Because some people run away from life to the gym. So they stay weak mentally. Physically, they're strong. But mentally, they're weak because they're only using it as an escape. Some people take it as their way of rebuilding themselves so that they can face life with this new kind of strength, this new kind of version. So if you're taking it just as an escape or just as some anger release without understanding what really gave you that kind of anger, how do you actually fix your problems, to actually fix your state of mind, if you know what I mean,
Yes.
then in that sense, things can go different. So just as a simple example, and I'm pretty sure something like that, of course, happens with you, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate with this. Let's say you're an athletic person in general, and you stop exercising for a while. If you're someone who's naturally energetic, kind of hyper, what tends to happen after just a few days of stopping your workout is you start to feel this kind of anxiety. You start to feel that your mind is focusing on simple, unnecessary things. And all of a sudden you feel these rush of thoughts and emotions and all of that. So some people might argue that, oh, this is ADHD or whatever. But I'm just stating what normally happens to humans. So when you feel that there's this kind of rush and it's pretty unstable for you, ask yourself this question. Say, is it because I've been escaping my problems by releasing that stress in the gym? Or is it just the normal way of how my body is signaling a message that you should go work out? Let's fix our lives by first fixing our energetic and mental state. So, see, the action is one. You go, you work out, you release that stress. But what kind of stress are you releasing?
As much as I agree with you, I feel like if we view it as a coping mechanism, then it would make things much more clearer. Lifting gives you confidence. It's a dopamine rush in some sense. And if you're out there putting in the effort to get that dopamine, but without anything to truly guide you, without, sitting with your thoughts, with your mental health and actually working on that, then it's just gonna stress you out even more. Which is why I say mental health and physical health are intertwined. Yes, you lift, yes, you feel better. But if you don't focus on balancing those two aspects, then one can overpower the other, and you're never gonna find out why you feel so upset, because you don't go back to the roots of why you are truly upset. So, is the gym real therapy or is it a distraction? That's a question that we need to ask ourselves. And it doesn't end there, because us as Emiratis, as Muslims, we need to revise different coping mechanisms. Yes, we have the gym, but we also have prayer. We also have our loved ones to keep around and, bond with. If we don't focus on all of these aspects and balance them out, everyone has their own way of balancing things out, طبعاً. But if we don't reflect on these things, then how can we truly be mentally stable? Which is, again, it's a subjective topic. طبعاً it depends from person to person, but we need to reflect on many different things as people. That's why some people journal. That's why some people choose to pray for longer periods. That's why some people use the gym. But is it a coping mechanism, or is it a way for you to understand yourself?
Okay, so remember how at the start I said it depends on what kind of mindset you're approaching with? Okay, so here's something I learned from my father. And it's a mistake that many people fall into, let's say when they start therapy and all of that. Let's say you were in a specific situation, in a scenario where someone disrespected you, right? And that really affected you, and you have all this anger inside of you. Why? Because you were speechless at that point. So basically, some therapists, what they say is you reimagine the scenario, try to fix your mindset on what you're gonna say if you were taken back to that situation. And for the most part, it really rewires your brain to the point where it heals you, plus it gives you another level of experience, because that's the power of imagination. It actually changes your reality.
Imagination. I would say reflection.
Imagination, reflection, because you imagine how you would have acted if you were put back again for the next time. But that's not my point. My point is, some people, they choose to do that. And you're like, yes, that's good. You did that, right? You go back home, you refresh everything. But they approached it with the mentality of, whenever something like that happens to me, I'm going to go back and I'm going to face it in my imagination, which happens a lot. You see many people in certain situations, they're silent. They go back home, they're punching the walls, they're talking to themselves. And it's the same cycle for years. So, as I said, sure, you need to balance. You just mentioned we're Muslims, right? We pray, we have our family to take care of, they take care of us. Then we have the gym, and then we have other things. But if you're approaching everything with a twisted mentality, everything is just, how can I avoid? How can I cope? How can I find?
And you do it unintentionally. That's the issue. For the most part. For the most.
Human nature. It's human nature. And our test in life is to go against some parts of human nature, because some parts, of course, we shouldn't touch. It's how we are, and it's how we should be. But some other parts are put to us as a test. Otherwise, if everything was easy, it would be just complete nonsense.
Definitely. I mean, I want to go back to that reflection part. I mean, yes, reflecting on what you've gone through is essential. But reflecting and not taking action, you're going to stay in that loop.
Exactly.
You're going to stay in that loop. So, ignoring your mental health and using the gym to escape emotions, confusing ego with strength, all of these things are things that men focus on unintentionally. And I'm someone that has gone through that myself. So what does real strength look like to you?
Well, I have many perspectives.
What is strength? Just one perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something me and you can relate to, because we've been through that. Martial arts versus bodybuilding.
Okay.
Let's start with the physical aspect.
Okay. Ego aspect, really.
That's ego.
Yeah.
Everyone that I know that lifts weights has to walk with their head up high. And not everyone, but the majority of people, when they start out, they say it. They say, after I started lifting weights, I feel like I can beat up everyone in the room. And here's the thing, okay? Because I've been in that place. But then what happens is, are you really healthy when you're lifting weights? Or is there another aspect of your health that you should take care of?
Like mental health.
Like, okay, like mental health, like let's say, because now we're talking about ego.
Mhm.
We go do martial arts. The first thing we learn about martial arts, if you're punched in the face, you can't do anything about it.
Hmm.
You cannot rage your way out of it. You're punched in the face, right? You're in the sparring session right now. You're going to get punched again until you deal with it. That's where strength is built. See what I mean? I mean, I'm not really against bodybuilding and lifting weights in general, but I'm against the mentality that you approach bodybuilding if you're going to say it's for me to just be stronger, feel more confident, if you know what I mean. So if you're going to talk about real strength, go humble yourself there in martial arts. That's number one. But the second thing is, even when you go to martial arts, even when you do all of that, are you doing it to go and beat up people? Or are you doing it to feel confident that you can, but now you will choose not to?
I believe both of what you mentioned revolve around ego with strength. Whether we compare bodybuilding and martial arts or any type of lifting technique or art, whatever the case may be, the truth is a lot of men, including me back then, used to think that thinking vulnerably is weakness. And so that's why we go to martial arts. That's why we go to bodybuilding. That's why we go to different types of sports. So if I were to ask myself, what does real strength look like? It wouldn't just be about balance and knowing how to reflect. It would also be about knowing when to pick yourself up and when to push through, and knowing how to use that reflection to your own good, not just reflecting and throwing it in the garbage. So the 5 pillars of stability, to me, sleep, lifting, prayer, real conversations, you need to stick with community at the end of the day, like family, like we mentioned. But we also need to reduce dopamine overload. And that includes lifting at times. Because we live in a society where dopamine is easily accessible. And so our brains are currently and constantly overloaded. There's a lot of doom scrolling, there's a lot of media, and then you go and get even more dopamine through the gym, which is not wrong. But again, it's all about balance and knowing when to do something and how to do it and how to reflect on it. And then, okay, at the end of the day, this motivational fluff isn't gonna help anyone out. Acting on it will change you more than anything else. So if anyone is listening or feels lost right now, what's the first thing that they should fix? Their thoughts or their habits? عطني شيء واحد بس, just choose one.
That's a really tough question to ask.
It's a really tough one. Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to answer it instead. Okay. Sorry. I know. I answered the question. Okay. If someone listening feels lost right now, what's the first thing that they should fix? Their thoughts or their habits? It is really tough because at the end of the day, thoughts nowadays are simply just that. We get a lot of motivational videos on our feeds 24/7, but who actually goes out and makes an impact? Not many of us. Otherwise, you'd see even much bigger and immense change happening within our societies. You need to make an impact. You need to change your habits. And those habits, whether physical or mental, need to happen after reflection. Everyone has their own way. Everyone has their own priorities. But let it start and end. Let it start with reflection and end with action.
That's a perfect way to actually say it. But let me just give you some information on how psychology works with humans, because many people who talk to me and ask me for any kind of advice, first thing I hear from them is, I'm stuck. The funny thing with being stuck is this. You're stuck, and please focus on this. You're stuck until you take a step. What I mean by take a step isn't a jump, isn't a leap, isn't wake up tomorrow and change your job and move to cities. No. What I mean by take a step, it could be as simple as just stand up and clean your room. Because I know it sounds absurd, but what really happens with this is that when you're in a, let's say in a certain mental state, let's say at this point, anxiety, depression, whatever, what happens is there's an aura that's shaped around you. It's like a shield. Now you're stuck in that shield, okay? And your intuition, your thoughts cannot cross the border of the shield. Even if I showed you heaven in front of you, you won't see it as heaven.
Because it's used your comfort zone. That's not
It's not really just about the comfort zone. It's more about there's another force that's making you blind even when everything is right in front of you. The only way to break it is to take a move because it shatters like glass. Take it like this. Your mental state will shatter exactly how glass shatters. And once it shatters like that, all of a sudden you look at everything and you're like, wait a minute. How did I not think of that? How did I not understand that just by me standing up right now and just organizing my room, my mind will start thinking in a way that just made me see everything differently. In a way that seems so, like, it's just illogically true once it happens. So what then happens is the mind starts to change. All of a sudden you see people changing other things in life. So it's like momentum that just starts, and then you see people taking some shifts, and some people just take it step by step, depending on how heavy the weight is on them.
So it all goes back to action at the end of the day. Again, you have that mental restriction that you've placed upon yourself.
Yeah.
Whether, no matter what the reason may be, but as long as you move, then that movement is what's going to shape you.
Exactly. And you know what my father always tells me? He's like, listen, if you're in an argument with someone and you got mad and you feel like something's just not clicking, first thing you do is, both of you, if you were sitting, stand up. You were standing, sit, or walk.
Mm-hmm.
First thing that happens is that glass shatters.
صح.
And all of a sudden, solutions are coming up. And then most of the time, you will realize that both of you actually were on the same side all along. It's just that your minds couldn't click.
It's just a matter of perspective. Perspective is key.
I've seen people who were on the exact same perspective, and I'm just looking at them arguing, and I'm like, you're both agreeing with each other.
You
And
just
you
don't
see it-
notice it. You just don't notice it.
And they're explaining to each other how they're agreeing, and then they're disagreeing about it. It's so funny. See, when you're outside the box, when you're outside that mental glass, you're looking at it and you're like, why can't they see it? But at the same time, if you were in their spot, you would do the same thing.
It's because, again, you said it yourself. You're looking at them from outside the bubble and they're stuck in that bubble. As soon as they step out of it, خلاص.
No matter how wise you were, no matter how experienced you were in life, once you get trapped into that bubble, and by the way, we get trapped into bubbles every single day.
24/7. Every
Yes. So our biggest challenge is how to break that bubble.
and not let it get bigger.
Exactly. How many times were you so sleepy in bed, you feel like you're going to cancel this important meeting, this important appointment, and then for some reason you just had to go. Once you wake up, you wash your face and you leave, you're like, how was I ever that sleepy? I feel like I'm fine. It happens with many people. That's just something very simple. So you can just take it as a skill with other big things that happen in your life. Major decisions, people who are starting their business, people who actually wanted to go to the gym. And they've been saying, I'm going to start tomorrow, I'm going to start tomorrow, I'm going to start tomorrow. And they just feel like they can't. If they just,
It's a power of consistency. Exactly, walking. You need to keep this in mind. Yes, we face our mental health is either with us or against us. And we choose for it to be either with us or against us. If you were to walk out of your bubble, you can't just take a step, break that bubble, and think that خلاص الحياة حلوة. No, it doesn't end there. You need to keep on walking. You need to keep on making moves. And the more moves you make, the more you grow.